Thank you for joining us at this time for another program of Budget in Focus. Budget 2021 is the government's first full-year budget, and it was launched under the theme, A Path to Recovery, Economic Dynamism and Resilience. I'm your host for this program, Travis Bruce, and today I'm joined by the Honorable Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Suzanne Rodrigues. Thank you for joining us at this time, Minister.
Thank you, Travis.
All right. So, Minister, I want us to take a trip back to Thursday to President Mohammed Irfan Ali's inaugural address to the 12th Parliament. And he really spoke about government being one, the oneness of government, and the character being the government's character for its vision is inclusion. What do you think about the President's address, and how do you see yourself playing that critical role in this coming to fruition?
I think the address was fantastic, both the content of the address as well as the presentation made by the President. He was passionate and he was very convincing. So the citizens, everyone, the MPs who were there, the whole country who was listening can feel the sincerity with which he spoke and can trust his words and can understand that the President means what he says when he speaks about this oneness and about unifying the country. And I was very honored and privileged to be with him yesterday on his outreach to the East Coast, where he launched the Corridor of Unity program. And I think that is a demonstration of this oneness that he's speaking about. This will be the pilot program. And so I'm very, very pleased and honored to be a part of the management of that program, launching the Unity Cup, a cricket tournament that will be played among the villages on the East Coast. And so I think the President not just only delivers these fantastic speeches and reach out to the people, but he demonstrates it by following up with actions and following up with real programs and real projects that will demonstrate his sincerity and that will impact the lives of Guyanese.
Wonderfully said. And you know, Minister, on Friday, the senior minister within the office of the President with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, he rolled out that budget, 2021, and it was recorded at $383.1 billion.
Yes.
The largest that we've ever seen. Yeah. And I know it is pro-poor, it is pro-development. So it really talks about us paving the way for that unified pathway to prosperity.
Sure.
So what are your thoughts on this budget and what it really means to us as Guyanese and taking this country forward?
You know, Travis, I want to say this. Budget 2021 is a demonstration, beyond the shadow of a doubt, why the People's Progressive Party Civic deserves to be in government. You compare this budget to anything that was presented over the last 5 years by the APNO AFC coalition government, and nothing comes close. You know, when people ask, you hear them in conversations, they say, why do you think only the PPP can run this country? Well, Budget 2021 is why. And I'll tell you why. The budget is comprehensive because it focuses both on traditional sectors, agriculture, mining, forestry, fishery, all of that. And it also focuses on the emerging sectors, oil and gas, for example. It is visionary. It is well conceptualized. And I think it is a demonstration that the leadership of the People's Progressive Party government is steady, it is consistent, and you can see the experience in terms of leadership with the presentation and the composition of that budget. You know, the race is not for the swift. We in 2020, introduced a lot of measures with which we delivered on our manifesto. So we had a lot of manifesto promises that we had to fulfill in our first budget, which was the emergency budget, and we were able to accomplish that. But in 2021, while we continued to deliver on our promises that we made in our manifesto, we also had to ensure long-term planning, planning that will put this country on the path to realize the transformation that is coming. So that is the kind of steady leadership, the steady type of and the consistent leadership that we need in this country. And so I think Budget 2021 brought that with all of the measures that were in there, apart from those measures that were for those allocations that were made in the different sectors. I think the budget measures themselves will go a very, very far way in bringing relief to the citizens.
Yeah, indeed. And you know, as we talk about the budget and the allocations, let's talk about your ministry. I believe that it was about $11.1 billion set aside for the Ministry of Housing and Water. Can you perhaps share with us some of these programs that will be fleshed out? I know about $4 billion was set aside specifically for water, improving the quality of water, access to water across the country, not only centralized in Georgetown. So tell us a bit about some of those programs that will be rolled out.
Well, sure. So the Ministry of Housing, let me start with housing. We have made a commitment in our manifesto that we will deliver 50,000 house lots in our first 5 years. We have already started that allocation exercise where we allocated about 3,600 last year within our first 4 months in office. So we are well on our way to achieving our target for our first year, which will be in August of this year. So that's 10,000 house lots annually. So we're well on our way to accomplishing that. And this allocation in the budget for the Ministry of Housing will see the infrastructure being put in place so that the allottees can occupy their house lots, and it will be equipped with the necessary infrastructure, drainage, access roads and bridges, the water distribution network, and the electrical network, so that people can occupy and they can start construction on their homes. We also have the 1,000 home low-income homes that we plan to build, and this is not just for Region 4, or it's not just spread out over the coastal regions, but we also have a hinterland program, and we also have a 1,000 home project in Region 10, which the President announced on his presidential outreach to that region. And the beauty about that 1,000 home project for Region 10 is that all of the labor and all of the materials will be organic to that region. So that region can see huge development, within this year, 2021. And I think, again, it is a demonstration by His Excellency that no region will be left behind, that he is going to be a president and he's going to lead a government for all Guyanese, and that no region will be given a preference or priority over the other, because what we want to do is develop this country in a holistic manner, in the same way that we at the Ministry of Housing want to develop our communities, holistic communities, sustainable communities, where people have neighbors. You know, in the past, a lot of the complaints were that people don't have neighbors, that the schemes have low occupancy. And so some people don't even move in, even after they have their land, or even after they've built their homes, because they're concerned about security, that the place is not fully occupied. So we want to encourage persons to build. We want to encourage allottees to be able to build their homes. And so we've done several things like approaching the banks and so on to make it easier for persons to access loans. And with one of the budget measures, or two of the budget measures, moving the low-income ceiling for commercial banks from 10 million to 12 million, and then increasing the mortgage ceiling at NBS from 12 to 15 million. That is something we engaged the banks on and we fought very hard for, and we got that in the presentation, in the budget presentation. So we're very pleased about that, because we know it will go a far way in helping citizens to achieve that dream of home ownership. And for water, about 52% of the water, all water connections, receive treated water. That is undesirable, and we want to increase that. So we've developed a 5-year strategic plan for the Ghana Water Incorporated, where we want to see that go to between 70 to 90% in our first 5 years. It costs a lot of money to ensure that persons receive treated water, potable water in the true sense. As it is right now, we are not in compliance with WHO standards in terms of iron content. So we want to ensure that we are in compliance with that, and that, you know, people can, when they turn on their taps, it's not just clean water, but it's constant. You know, that's been a problem that has plagued our country for a long time. People only get water in some areas for a certain amount of hours in the day. That's also a situation we want to remedy. So we're excited with our budget allocation, and we look forward to kicking off our program very shortly.
Yeah. When you say, something really stood out to me, what you said just now. It's really a network. It's a collaborative effort, not only between your ministry, but the Ministry of Public Works and all these other ministries when it comes to this housing development project that will see young people like myself being able to own their own homes even this year. But I want to talk a little bit about the 5% reduction in the water tariffs. What does that really mean to consumers?
Look, it's a significant reduction because it's 5% for every cubic meter of water. So that goes a far way at the end of the month in terms of the reduction in tariff. It's the same thing for construction materials. You know, when you go to a hardware store, you're building a home and you're buying steel. If you get $50 off or $100 off of one length of steel,
It's a big
it
difference.
adds up to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and depending on the size of the house that you're buying, millions of dollars in savings. So that's how you have to look at it, with the reduction in tariff. And in all of the budget measures, it really brings huge relief to the population, Travis. And you know, I want to debunk this thing about public servants and public servants not receiving an increase in their salaries. That is untrue, because $10 billion is in the budget estimates for the revision of salaries and wages. So public servants will see an increase in their wages. But not only that, you see, we have to stop thinking in a vacuum, or we have to stop looking at the budget, looking for a line item, or looking for a heading that says public servants or housing or water. We have to look at the budget in the same way, holistically, comprehensively. That $15,000 cash grant for school children is also going to public servants. The 0% VAT on basic food items puts money back in people's pockets. It's savings. It puts money back into the public sector's pockets. A dollar saved is a dollar earned. You know, some of the other measures, the 0% on stone, imported stone from CARICOM, locally produced pre-stressed concrete piles, the locally fabricated steel beams, some of the other things from the construction sector, the industrial grade cement, lowering the duty from 15% to 5%. These all represent savings that will benefit our citizens, and will see more money in their pockets at the end of the year. And if you take the budget measures and you annualize the savings, you can recall, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers can recall, that the APNU AFC increased tax collection by $88 billion annually. I'm sure you remember that figure, $88 billion. It was increased by annually, direct taxation. That came directly from the pockets of ordinary people. But if you annualize the sum total of all of the budget measures from 2020, it's $40 billion. That's $40 billion back into the pockets of ordinary Guyanese. And if you do the sum total of the budget measures for 2021, it's $50 billion. That's $50 billion again back into the pockets of ordinary Guyanese, so that they have more disposable income. So it's not just about a percentage of salary increase, but you have to look at all of the measures and all of the programs and policies that we're going to implement that will save you money and bring relief to the economy, and also to stimulate the economy, because they're the measures that increase savings, and then there are measures that put money back into the economy and create employment for those who've been on the breadline over the last 5 years.
And you know, Minister, one of the things that your ministry received high praise for is removal of VAT on water, and then us reversing that program where the pensioners could now receive subsidies again for their water supply. What has the
Sure.
feedback been for that initiative by government?
It's a huge relief to people. You know, to that, when that was introduced, people really cried out, and it was the VAT that was causing the problem. I mean, people were saying, you know, water is expensive. When you look at the cost, the tariff for water in Guyana, it's not like it is for electricity, where we're far above average, the global rates. Our water rates are pretty low already, and we further reduce it now with this 5% reduction in tariff. And then the removal of VAT as well last year, you know, sends really goodwill to the people, and also on our government, because it represents a manifesto promise that we were able to fulfill. And also our pensioners, another budget measure as well was the increase in old age pension. So all of that helps to bring relief to our pensioners and to our citizens at large.
Yeah. And you know, Minister, when we think about it too, going back just a little bit on housing and how we are networking, do you foresee any challenges within the ministry as it relates to having a constant water supply in these new housing schemes that will be developed this year and in the future? Any challenges you think would come up at any time?
Well, it's planning. Apart from any force majeure, like the, bad weather and all of these things. But we've started that planning, Travis, since last year. So what we did, we are not looking at housing in a vacuum. While we have to ensure that we allocate 50,000 house lots in 5 years, we didn't put a minimum target then, that we're working for this month, or for 4 months, or for 2020 budget alone. We took a holistic approach. We have to do 50,000. So we're working out and coming in, as opposed to working inwards and then going outwards. So we started immediately looking for lands to acquire to fulfill our mandate of the 50,000. So we've already identified those lands. So not because we have to deliver 10,000 in the first year, it means we're only going to look for land that would fulfill that appetite for that year. So we started with the 50,000. So we went out and we did our surveys, and then we're making our proposals now to Gaisuku and to NISIL and to Lands and Survey to make sure that we earmark those lands that we think are suitable for housing development. And then we have to come to an agreement with them to ensure that it's not land that's under cultivation or land that will be used to develop a road network. Coming back to the whole approach where we have to sit with Public Works and we have to sit with Gaisuku, because we have competing interests, but it's one government. And we have to fulfill our mandates and our manifesto. So Gaisuku has its mandate to fulfill, housing has theirs, Public Works has theirs. So we have to sit and talk, and that's what we've been doing to ensure that nobody or no sector is left behind, because they're all equally important to propelling this country and our economy. So that was a huge challenge initially, the tug of war over competing interests. But, it's gotten better, and we're trying to now legally transfer those lands over to central housing so that we can make allocations and then transfer titles to the homeowners. Money is always a problem. You have a big ambition, but you have to balance your budget. But we also have good communication and cooperation with the Ministry of Finance. And I think with our allocation in the budget, we can really go a far way in our program for this year.
Yeah. Minister, permit me to read a little extract from your manifesto at last elections.
Okay.
It speaks about creating the institutional mechanisms to rationalize the country's water resource management framework over the next 5 years. Tell me in layman's term what this really means for us in Guyana.
So, a lot of times when people think about water, they think, I want to turn on my tap and I want water to come out of there.
Yeah.
And I want clean water to come out
Perhaps
of there.
even one that you
Right?
can drink too.
Right,
Yeah.
correct. That's fine. That's good. That's in layman's term. But there's a lot of other things that go into that to ensuring that that tap always flows and that that water is treated. So that now we're talking about the management of water. Now, in terms of managing water, that's something that, that the sector has been lacking for a long time. We've inherited over the past 5 years, what we found is a lot of the wells are failing us now due to lack of maintenance. The system was very, very neglected. The water distribution system was very, very neglected over the last 5 years. Not enough flushing, not enough maintenance, nobody checking on these things. So almost every day you have a well going down, or a main exploding because of the lack of maintenance. And so all of that goes into ensuring that when you turn on that tap, that the main is not broken somewhere and that you can't get water. So management of water. Installing meters also helps us to manage water and manage the consumption of water. And of course, increases revenue for the company. The company has to make money, in order to survive, in order to deliver potable water to ordinary Guyanese. So that's what that means, that type of managing the resource, responding to leaks, increasing treatment in the water, whether it be by chemical or whether it be by filters. All of that goes into ensuring that when you turn on that tap, that you get clean water and you get reliable water.
Yeah. So, Minister, as we are coming down to program time, what are some of the very short-term expectations from the ministry, not only on water, but housing specifically? What can you say to our listeners and our viewers exactly this is what you are going to benefit from us this year and beyond?
So we have to continue our allocation activity. We've inherited a huge backlog, but we are not daunted by that task. We have the experience of the president, who was a former minister of housing and water, and his guidance and his advice is always welcome at the ministry because he pioneered the housing sector. He led the most ambitious housing drive this country has ever seen, and now we're trying to outdo him. But it's his government, so yeah, he'll get the credit regardless. But people should look forward, especially those old applicants, because we have to deal with people first in time. I think there are a lot of people who may have a great need now, but have a more recent application. But in fairness, we have to ensure that we get rid of that backlog that has been piling up over the last 5 years, And so we have to get to those old applications. We have to give people land. That's what people want. But it's not just about giving them a piece of paper that says, you've been allocated lot 1 at this area. We have to ensure that that land is prepared. That's part of our mandate. We have to ensure that that infrastructure is there so that you can go utilize that land and build a home and live in dignity and shelter your family and move on with your life and realize your dream of home ownership. So that's something that people can look forward to, and I think that they can be excited about, because every time I look outside my window at the ministry there and I see the long lines, of course I'm concerned that we're in a pandemic, and I'm concerned for their safety. But I feel very proud to know that they're coming because they have faith, trust, and confidence that our ministry and our government will deliver on our mandate. And I think that's why they're coming.
Yeah, definitely they are. When we also think about housing and the different projects that is happening and the interlinking of them and how Georgetown may expand further than we know it right now. Have you seen an interest in outside investors because there is so much expansion and opening up of the city, linking bridges and roads? Have you seen that interest in investors in the country, and what has that been like for you?
Sure, there is a huge excitement among overseas investors to come into Guyana and to invest because they see the potential. And that is something that we have to encourage. Ordinary Guyanese and our citizens have to see that too and have to take advantage of that. While we welcome foreign investment, we have to ensure that our citizens are employed, are given jobs, and they too can benefit from the transformation that is coming to our country. And I hope that people who are applying for land too can be more open-minded about where they receive their allocation. Everybody wants to be close to Central Georgetown. But, you know, I lived in Central Georgetown for a very, very long time, most of my life. And I thought I could never move out of Georgetown. But I moved recently, further up the East Coast, and I find that it's so nice now because I can go home and then I don't have to hear the busyness and the buses and the horns, and you know, never thought I would get accustomed to that. But now I don't think I can move back to Georgetown. So I think people have to get accustomed to going a little out. We all have vehicles now. When you go to New York, sometimes you have to drive 45 minutes or an hour, hour and a half to get between work and home. So we have to adjust to that in Guyana here too, because we're going to be spreading out more, and people have to be more open-minded to living outside of Georgetown. And with the road network, the transformative road network that is coming, they'll be able to get to work in no time, even if they're living outside of the city.
Yeah, so true. Minister, any final comments you'd like to leave with us at this time as we wrap up today's edition of the program?
I just want to say to people that, you know, don't listen to people who are just trying to throw water on this budget. You know, we have to think for ourselves. We have to read, we have to understand what it is that this budget represents and what it is that your government is trying to do this year and over the next 5 years. We're trying to prepare this country to benefit in a maximum way from all of the development that is coming. So we have to prepare our country, we have to prepare our citizens so that we can all benefit from that transformation. And we don't want anyone to be left behind. That is why the president himself, and he said this in his address to the parliament, that he's going to be going in every community and reach out and speak to the members of every community so that we can know how to deliver to them, how to bring development to them in a meaningful way, in an impactful way. And he said he's going to do this by example. He's going to do it himself. He said that in his presentation. And so he means that, and he's going to get it done. And so that is why I want people to know that, and I want people to see and to judge us based on what we've done in office. This is not just about words. This is not just about going on Facebook Live and talking with no action. The president is leading by example, and he has demonstrated his actions. And he is charging his cabinet, all of his ministers, and all of the members of parliament as well, to go out into the communities and to do the same thing. So I think there are exciting times ahead for Guyanese, and I want young people especially, I'm warning young people, don't resist development. Do not resist development. You have to work with your government. Our government will be there for them and for all Guyanese, and we want people to work with us so that this entire country can move forward together.
Wonderfully said. Thank you so much, Minister, for joining us today on this program of Budget in Focus. And that's all the time we have for you, our listeners and viewers. Thank you for being with us.